There it comes.
There are your bells.
The bells.
Did you say you showing forward?
That's it.
We'll call it to order. All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Kerrville Economic Improvement Corporation to order. I've got it pretty close to 4 o'clock. We'll start off with the invocation. I've asked Gary Stork to bring us together.
Shall we? Our Father God, we praise your name for everything that you do for us. We thank you for this hill country. We thank you for this city. We pray that as we receive information and make decisions as a corporate body, that we will do this with your will in mind and out of love for our neighbors. Through the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Gary. Item number 1 is the Visitors and Citizens Forum. Any citizen with business not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the Economic Improvement Corporation. No deliberation or action can be taken on these items because of the Open Meetings Act requires an item to be posted on the agenda for the meeting. Visitors are asked to limit their presentation to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody that would like to address the corporation today, the board? No? We'll move on to item 2, the approval of the minutes. Has the board had a chance to review the minutes from the June 20th meeting? If so, I'll entertain a motion that to be accepted as presented.
I so move.
I have a motion and a second. Second with Kenneth. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Approved. And we're going to go to the monthly reports. Start with the financials.
Good afternoon. Wow. These are for the financial reports ending June 30. On your operating fund, your opening cash was $4,113,236. You had income of $244,304. Expenditures of $97,311, leaving you an ending balance of $4,260,229. The following page is the details. It shows what was budgeted, your current month expense, year-to-date expense, and your budget balances. The following page, which is page 12 in your agenda, is the revenue analysis for the year. At this point, you're at 3.59% over last year, the same time period, and right on target for a budget. On the following page is your capital projects fund. You had an opening balance of $1,115,812. No income, no expense, leaving your balance unchanged. On page 14 is the project status summary report. You had no activity, so your cash stayed the same. At the bottom of the page is your river trail update with your year-to-date expenditures, and you have an ending cash balance of June 30 of $1,205,471.
Sandra, just real quick on at the top of that page, the Callow Theater expansion.
Okay.
Showing there's about $89,000, I think, left
Just
out
a
of what we
second here.
budgeted compared to what's spent.
On
Are we
which-
expecting some additional expenses?
On the Callow Theater,
Yes, ma'am.
the project balance of $4,625.
No, the one at the top of the page, Callow Theater expansion.
Number
Total
2.
funded 113 and expenses to date of $1,023,023.
Okay. We didn't change that funding back, but that money was returned back to Playhouse 2000 month before last. There is no cash left. That was part of the agreement.
Okay.
Yes, so there is no cash balance.
I just didn't remember that.
Right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we got it.
On page 15 in your agenda is your cash and investments, showing where your placement of your funds are and the interest earned on the funds for the month.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 3A is the monthly reports.
One thing I would like to clarify on the financial report, those funds that are being reported for the river trail are inclusive of all expenditures. So that is design, that's right-of-way acquisition, that is all of our eminent domain, all of our legal, everything is included within that budget. And so the project balance through July 13th is $1,222,795. So $1,222,795.19. And so those are funds available to finish out the final details on the existing contract that we have, which was the Town Creek crossing over to Lowry and Guadalupe Street. There's maybe about $10,000 left of outstanding expenditures to finish out the books on that. And then we now, again, so you'll have a little bit of a balance there, about $1.2 million to apply towards additional land acquisition and construction moving forward. So just in case y'all
I just want
hear
to clarify
questions on
that because I know there was some comments earlier that that may not be the case. So just to clarify, all expenses that have been attributed to the river trail are included in that balance?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's everything. So where we've had additional land or through the process, we've established project budgets for each phase of that project, and so we've kept to a project budget for that. So ultimately, it's all there. It's all been accounted for. So when Sandra's providing her monthly reports to you with regard to financial activity on that specific project, it includes everything up to this point. Projects closed in addition to what our up-to-date cash looks like for those particular projects.
And Todd, I don't want to speak for you, but we had a member of council on the radio on Friday that wasn't real clear on that. So I just wanted to, I assume that's why you're making sure that we have clear communication here.
Well, I figured you may be getting questions out there. I know folks know y'all are on EIC, and so there may be questions that you hear. So just for you to know that that is all encompassing, includes everything to this point.
Yeah, I want to commend staff. I mean, this has been a massive long-term project, and to continue to keep it on track and on budget has been a phenomenal job from y'all's standpoint. And I just want to say thank you.
Oh, sure, thank you.
That's impressive.
Well, it's our staff, Sandra, and all of our folks who are managing those contracts. So I appreciate that very much. Okay, moving on to the project updates. The Kerrville Sports Complex, the existing grading contract, the Kellos were doing some site preparation work, so they're finishing their contract out. They've had some rain that have occurred that caused about a 30-day delay. So we were looking to transfer that land over to the city on July the 2nd. They've given us an extension to that portion of the agreement that allows us to transfer August 1. So our schedule is to transfer the property over and then to have our contracts begin work out there. So J3 is doing some work on behalf of the Callos, and so once they finish their contract, then we kick in on our side. So J3 is our dirt contractor moving forward. So they'll pick up their contract and move on from there. So
Good.
Anyway, again, estimated completion date's about 12 months. So we're looking to be complete by July to August of 2017 moving forward. So we do actually have had some conversations with an organization that's talking about bringing in 2018 some Connie Mack series, World Series for 3 younger age groups. So U9, U10, and I think U16s. So we'll hopefully have some more to present to y'all at this point, or at some point in the near future.
And for us non-sporting types, what's a Connie Mack?
Connie Mack is an organization of youth baseball. You have multiple different kind of organizations out there, and so Connie Mack is on the select side of baseball. One of those known entities out there that does baseball tournaments, youth baseball tournaments, and so they have regional and national tournaments around. So they want to bring 3 of those national tournaments for the different age groups here. So, so
Having never built a ball field before, so will they be ready to be used September 1? I mean, is that kind of the plan, or do they have to grow in or settle, or I mean, how does that work?
Well, our plan is to have it field ready or play ready by that July to August timeline.
Really?
And so when we talk about our year long, that includes all the construction work plus the grow in that has that facility ready to play.
Great. That's
Workforce housing project. Again, we had signed an MOU. That MOU was to try to have our preliminary analysis for this project completed by October 31 of this year. So we're looking at various options that are out there. One of the issues that we're looking at is some additional off-site options and looking at some other utility analysis that maybe need to look at feasibility. One of the discussion points with our development team was timing issues with regard to Peterson Farm Road. We have some core utilities that are scheduled to be completed by 2019, and they were looking at options to try to proceed forward with the project faster than that. So the purpose of our October 31 deadline is really to get a chance to determine whether or not we have a feasible level of project, either through their side, our side, or both sides that are there. So we're working through that. The other thing that we're working with, too, are our financial advisor and our bond counsel to look at various other ways to maybe apply some tax-exempt bonds or some other means to try to provide a cheaper, less expensive way to provide funding for the project as it makes it go. But again, this project is not anticipating that we're going to come to EIC for any of that project funding. We have capital projects we have funded in our CIP that are already on slate and ready to go. And so it's just a timing issue looking forward. So we'll just kind of see where it goes. But we're at the very preliminary stages at this point in terms of number crunching and trying to see what we have at this point. So either party can walk away. If we look at this and it doesn't work for the city or it doesn't work for them or both, then there's no holds barred. We can walk away. It's non-binding. So.
A couple questions, Todd. Since as a city we announced interest in this project, have any private developers come forward to say that they would like to do some version of this elsewhere, or?
Not yet. We haven't heard anything along those lines at this point.
Okay.
So there are a couple different projects already kind of underway right now. And so there is a project that's being contemplated on Loop 534, a multifamily project. So again, I think that's part of our thinking moving forward to see. And that's a standard market rate, traditionally financed project.
Okay. Because I would prefer to keep it in private hands instead of the city doing it. But I was hoping that would generate interest in a project privately. So.
Yep.
Okay, and we were going to have a workshop either with EIC or with City Council and the developer to flesh out possible directions.
Yes, and so what we're looking at right now is to finish out that initial economic feasibility and timing issue, and then to determine then if there's a willingness on either side to move forward. So
Okay.
what we're looking to do is, with the next few weeks, we'll have an better understanding about what the financing options may be. And again, the tax exempt would be kind of like what we did with the Industrial Development Corporation, that concept where we're the conduit to issue tax exempt, and then those bonds would actually be owned by the development team, by the development group. So there's some potential provisions in IRS code that allows Industrial Development Corporation bonds to be utilized for those types of purposes. And so so we're just determining whether or not that would be a feasible option to help assist with the funding, for the development of that project. And so so that's what we'll see what we see at this point.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
About the apartments or the workforce.
Could you give
apartments.
us your
I'm
name?
sorry, Jerry Wolf, 509 North Buckboard. What is the difficulty in getting private enterprise to come in and build an apartment complex? You're looking at approximately, 200 units that's being proposed now? Is that too small, too large? I come from Houston. To me, that would be no problem if there was a need for a workforce increase, for someone to come in, say on one edge of Houston, would come in and build an apartment complex without batting an eye. So
Yeah, I like that question.
what's the problem here?
That's
Yeah.
one of the reasons we're going to have this workshop is hopefully that the developer will keep it private, and maybe there's a donation of land or something along those lines, because I'm not sure that I'm interested in the city becoming landlords. So I like your question, and I like your direction. and we're investigating everything we can, but we can't make a private organization, a private business to come in and, here, come here, build.
Well, I
some-"
know they can't,
Yeah,
right,
so-
you can't force them. But is there some sort of way of publicizing that there's a need here to get developers or apartment owners?
They are
types out of
interested.
San
They are,
Antonio?
there is interest here from the private developers. And there's also an interest in them relocating where they're going to put this housing.
Jerry,
And-
this all came up about a year and a half, 2 years ago in a joint meeting that we had with city council. And the city owns some acreage out by the airport, which is where this is starting. And it's been sitting there since we bought it and paid a note off. It was supposed to be for something else, and nothing's being done with it. That's what we're trying to do, is get that property used instead of it just sitting there. And so these were the ideas that came out. At the same time, we were having conversation about the expansion of the workforce, and so knowing that there might be a need for that, and that's where the idea was born. And so it's evolved to what you see today from that.
Okay.
And really, it started with, can we figure out a way to use the land?
I got you. I'm kind of like Mr. Stark. I see creepy crony capitalism going on here, and it's disturbing.
well,
And the better off the city stays in the city business and private enterprise stays
Sure.
private enterprise,
Absolutely.
the better for everyone.
and you have people up here that believe exactly like you do.
Well, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Todd, you ready to move to item 4?
Okay, thank you. All right, we're looking for some action on the fiscal year 17 EIC budget. So we've worked this through a couple workshops now, and so had gone back through and made some adjustments. In one of those, on the category 3 on the wastewater line extension, we had $3 million. I think our last discussion was to actually remove that $3 million because that project's really not feasible, not going to happen. In addition to that, had received direction from council to provide for an application to EIC for the use of up to $3 million that would be used to help provide for some additional funding to help pay for the distribution extension lines for the reclaimed water. So we're working on the reuse or reclaimed water projects. That's the pond. We're building the pumping stations. We're in design on that now. Should be out to bid on that towards the end of this year. The other piece to that was to bid and construct the distribution lines. And so we're looking at 3 contemplated distribution lines. You've got one that goes to the athletic complex, one that goes to Shriner University, and one that goes to the River Hill Golf Course. And so again, up to $3 million. So in contemplation of that application, of course, one of the key questions, presumably from EIC, would be, well, how would that fit into a cash flow situation? So we dropped a scenario in for there potentially, should that application be granted. A couple other things. So we also looked at the the Guadalupe Park enhancements. And so with that project, we had contemplated making some enhancements or some improvements, contemplating we had the connection of the river trail ultimately to Guadalupe Park. And so there were various types of things that we had presented and talked about trying to do out there. The likelihood of getting those projects completed so that you'd move forward with Guadalupe Park enhancements in fiscal year 19 would not be likely. So had proposed a scenario where we push that out 1 year to fiscal year 2020. So to really kind of schedule that to be more consistent with what a potential actual timeline might be. Of course, this is all part of your 5-year forecast that really doesn't roll into fiscal year 17, but it does have ultimately an impact to it. So every other element of the budget proposal that you have seen really remains consistent with that. So For 17, the one addition would have been the 1.5, which was a portion of that potential application. In our agenda bill, we provided kind of a breakout for what the segmented cost of that distribution system would have been. So it's about $1.5 million for the extension to the athletic complex, and then split about $900 to $600 to Shriner University and to River Hill, consistently. So that's your budget proposal that we have for you. And so
A couple of questions came up to me, Todd, and just would like for you to clarify them, that because we originally approved the $9 million, I think, to provide for the pond issue, but that did not have any distribution lines factored into that cost. Is that correct?
well, the project that we're doing on the reuse water, there's no EIC funds going to any of that. So all that's being constructed and taken care of out of the utility fund. So the $9 million is our portion of the athletic complex project, and so that's the park and the park improvements themselves. It doesn't address the distribution lines. It doesn't address any of that. So this is above and beyond that.
Yeah, but
particular
that was
project.
never, that's what I was getting at. The distribution lines were never included in that figure. Is that correct?
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And then I think the other one that, just to remind me, because I know there's some ability to recoup some expenses through the sale of this water. Is that, explain that to me one more time, as far as if River Hill and Shriner agree to purchase affluent water from us, which I assume is part of the deal, is there some sort of a payback on that, or have you looked at that number?
Well, the cost for the sending or distribution of that water to our customers is 65 cents a thousand. So there's a base rate of, I think, 11.43 right now, and then you've got a volumetric rate that applies to it. So the letter of intent that we're working on with Shriner and with River Hill would provide that the city is providing for the off-site expense, and then they're providing for their on-site expense. So we would take a reclaimed distribution line to a point on the property, to delivery point, and then from there, they take care of their on-site storage and then all the on-site distribution pieces that they need. And so council had authorized me to finalize some letters of intent, and I think I'm pretty much getting close to getting those fully wrapped up. We're going to take those back to council on the 26th. But when we do make an application, you would see a joint application for each of these lines for River Hill and Shriner that they would be party to those applications. So, and that's specified in our potential LOIs. So you'll see a joint application coming forward of which both parties are tied to. But there is a volumetric rate that we would establish, and we do want to establish a citywide rate at this point. Right now, each of our contracts have different rates based on what was necessary or needed at the time that they were brought on. But when you look at the distribution itself and the cost of reuse or reclaimed water, the treatment of that to that point where it gets discharged from the plant, from the water reclamation plant, is already covered in your wastewater rate.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the additional cost then associated with the delivery of that reclaimed water to the client. And so that's what we're looking at, that we think is about 65 cents a thousand. Plus, again, we've got a base rate that is applied to that every month above and beyond that. So I don't know if that answers that.
And that doesn't sound like very much, but some of these golf courses use 1 million gallons a day, right? Or somewhere in there?
River Hill is projecting to use a peak of 600,000 gallons a day. Comanche Trace already receives in their peak 1 million gallons a day. Our golf courses uses about 300 to 400,000 gallons a day. And so
we're talking huge volumes.
No, that's what I was kind of getting at, is that there's going to be some money recouped in some shape or fashion through the sale of that water. I mean, it didn't come back to EIC, obviously, but
Right.
yeah,
right, it'll go to help cover the operations expenses.
Sure.
And contemplate depreciation on the distribution portions of those systems. So that's factored in.
And I know you guys remember this, but I like to reiterate every chance I get. This irrigation will replace potable water in some cases. So, there's 600,000, or I don't know how much Shriners use in a day, but that will replace potable water, which we want to hold in reserve. But also this pond is phase one, because we can take that water and then filter it or treat it again. I don't know the technical terms, but we can treat it again and pump it into phase two, which will produce potable water. So
It's a long-term goal.
Yeah, this is a short-term solution for a long-term project. So this is helping keep our golf courses green and our colleges green, and then saving potable water. So I like to remember that out loud as often as I can. So thanks for indulging me.
No, I think it's, that's was a discussion all along how this thing got started, is because we're currently pumping that water down Third Creek into the river, and how can we start managing some and retaining our own resources, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and we started down this road on this project because we had a joint meeting where EIC and council said, hey, we have an opportunity, let's pursue that. I'm sorry. Mr. Dillon.
Did you have something? Okay. Yeah, I just had one other question, actually just more a matter of a statement. Since the summary statement included a breakout of each of these changes that took place between last month and this month to the budget, there was just one exception that wasn't detailed in here. I think I know why it's been deleted, but from category 3 under housing, we had $500,000 next year, and then 2 years out another $500,000, then 2 more years out another $500,000. And so if you could just, for the record, sort of speak to that and why that's been removed.
Oh, those should still be in there. I apologize. That shouldn't be gone.
Okay.
Whoops.
I just wondered
Yeah.
if it was because of the uncertainty around the housing and what we were going to be doing that it had been removed.
No.
Okay. So that would be in 2017, 2019, and 2021, a
Yes,
$500,000
ma'am.
in category 3. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. That's true. Thank you.
good catch.
My name is Ed Schuler, and I have a simple question, if you would permit me. I'm familiar with wastewater use, being that I am one who uses it. And I have experienced an issue, and it's something that's additive and something that should be discussed, and that is the salinity of the product. Potassium and sodium chloride are part of the byproducts of reclaiming the septic. Is there progress or some means by which to remove your sodium and your potassium? If not, you will start poisoning your land with these salts, and it's really not very nice. Golf courses are beautiful and lush, but over the years they'll turn yellow. Okay? So I just want to bring that up. I think it's important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, more? Okay.
Well, and the use of those particular salts, those are issues that'll be treated, so that's being evaluated. Remember, keep in mind that we're looking to potentially go to develop direct potable reuse, and part of that evaluation is looking at what the quality of the water is, time of year, and then what appropriate treatment mechanisms would be applicable to take care of that issue.
That's my understanding.
Bill Morgan, 1744 Glen Road. My question relates to your statement about recouping the cost. I'm wondering how you can recoup the cost when you're giving 68 cents a 100,000 gallon of water away for 35 cents. And that's what they're doing now, I understand. They're selling it for less than their cost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, yes, sir.
I just wanted to get a clarification. Jerry Wolf, 509 Marth Buckboard. I just wanted to get a clarification from Mr. Parton. As Comanche Trace, who has been a user of treated effluent for several years now, is their salinity, the water they've been using, have a high salinity to it, or too high a salinity? Because as I understood what you said, that you're looking into treating the water to reduce the salinity in the future.
The water is applicable and usable on the fairways and the roughs. It's used that way in Comanche Trace. It's used that way on the Kerrville Scott Shriner Golf Course. In addition to that, we don't have bent grass greens on our greens at the Kerrville Shriner or Scott Shriner Golf Course, so we can use it there. We use 100% reclaimed water at Scott Shriner Golf Course today. Comanche Trace uses it in some cases in the peak when their run-of-river is terminated by the water master and they don't have access to their run-of-river rights. Then they are using nearly 100% reclaimed water today. They do not use it, or when they do, they'll flush the greens because the bent grass greens are sensitive to the salts that are in that system. But when you talk to Comanche Trace, they'll tell you that the nutrients actually that are in the reclaimed water are beneficial. It actually reduces the amount of artificial nutrients that they have to put out there on the grounds themselves, so they feel like they get a better product on the areas where they do utilize it. So where you have bent grass, it's going to be sensitive to those the salinity and the salts that are there. But where you're using other grasses other than bent grass, it works fine. And again, you can go out to Scott Shriner Golf Course today and see the effect of the use of that water out there. It's used, it's fine. It's used in a healthy application. It's fine for irrigation. We're not the only community using reuse water for irrigation. It's being used throughout our region, as well as throughout the state, throughout the country. So that's an okay use. The additional treatment that we're looking at would be to take it to a drinking water standard for potential use through direct potable reuse. So those who, again, are on bent grass will have to look at alternative sources. That's why River Hill will keep their well and will keep their run-of-river permits so that they can continue to have a supply of water that they can take care of their greens there. So,
Thank you, Todd.
We can't stump you for anything, can we?
Thanks, Todd.
Todd, it's my understanding that you would like for us to, we'll need to amend that proposed budget but you want us to approve that. You're asking for that to do. Okay.
yes,
I would
please.
like to, before we do that, I'd like to move us into executive session with the board's permission. We have some developments that have the potential to possibly impact future budgets. So at this time, I'd like to move us into executive session based on sections 551.071 and 551.072. Mike, do I have to vote for that or just call it?
Yeah, you need to vote.
I need a motion to go into executive
I
session.
go ahead.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, at 4:36, board will go into executive session. Okay, going to reopen the session of the Kerrville Economic Improvement Corporation. Time is 4:47. There was no votes, no action taken in executive session. Do you have any other comments or questions, announcements, items for future agendas? If you want to instruct staff? If there's nothing else, then
Wait.
we'll...
Don't we need to do approve on the budget or?
Oh, we do need to make that vote, don't we?
Yeah, so I move that we approve it based on the amendments that we discussed with those $500,000 amounts every 2 years.
Okay, so that would be the $500,000 under the housing line. starting in
Under the housing line.
2017, every other year. Okay. Any questions? Everybody understand that? Everybody okay with that? All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I think he just...
Did you already have a second? Sorry. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Now, any other action that needs to be taken? If not, the meeting's adjourned.